Hello everyone and welcome to the second episode of my Godot plugin development series. I'm developing Hoodie, my procedural geometry plugin for Godot 4. It's essentially Blender's geometry nodes, but integrated directly into Godot. Pretty cool, isn't it? Today we'll start by initializing our repository with Git, setting up the folder structure and writing our first lines of code. We'll see how to instantiate our custom UI panel in the Godot editor and display it when we select our procedural mesh object. If you're enjoying the series, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to stay updated on the next episodes. This is Green Crow Dev, let's get started. Alright, once we have created our project folder, let's open the terminal and execute the command git init. Now we want to add the Godot C++ submodule. That's basically what does the heavy lifting, first setting up the appropriate environment to develop a Godot C++ plugin. And now let's just update the submodule with this final command. Next step is to create a Godot project inside of the repository. This will be shipped together with the source code and will contain the demo scenes so that one can actually try it out more easily, but it's also very useful to have it through all of the development process. Let's create the binary folder in the demo folder and let's add this configuration file right there. Now let's download the sconstruct file provided by the documentation page, and if you don't know what it is, to put it simply, the sconstruct file contains all of the information that the software needs to make a build of your project, but more on that in the documentation page. Just a quick note here, if you're interested in developing your own Godot editor plugins to enhance your workflow or implement your awesome ideas, the series of tutorials I'm currently working on are exactly what you need. Subscribe to the page to receive a free demo of the book and a 30% discount when it becomes available. Link in the description below. But now, it's almost time to code. Remember our folder structure? The source folder will be the one containing all of our code. But there are two very important files we need to create before we dive in. These are registertypes.h and registertype.cpp. These files basically do the heavy lifting of binding all of our custom nodes and functions and whatever we create in the source files to be able to be used in Godot. So as we progress with our plugin, we will need to update registertypes.cpp constantly, along with all of our newly created classes. Now, ready to write our first lines of code? As we said in the introduction, the goal today is to display our custom UI in the Godot editor. So let's make this happen. First things first, let's create a class that will contain the logic of our procedural mesh. That is, HoodieMesh. At this time, we will not dive into the logic and will just write what's necessary to display the custom editor panel. So here's the code. What's important now is that it needs to inherit from HoodieMesh so that we can create it from the editor like this. Now let's write the code to display the custom panel. Let's create a custom class called Hoodie Editor Plugin that will be responsible for the UI and other stuff. It needs to inherit from editor plugin and eventually we'll need to implement all of its virtual methods. For now, we'll override just handles, make visible, and create a proper constructor. It seems pretty complicated, but it's just instantiating UI nodes that creates an editor like this. Since we said that we want to display our custom editor only when we select our HoodieMesh, it's important that we call make visible holes at the end of the constructor. And this is its definition. But what comes really handy is the handles function. Defining it with is only one line of code, we make sure that our custom editor only shows up when a HoodieMesh type of object is selected. Don't forget to register our newly created classes in the registertypes.cpp and we're ready to go. Let's compile the project with the sconst command and see the results. Let's click on the mesh instance 3D node and create a new HoodieMesh. Here we go, the editor panel shows up. We can now click on any other part of the editor and it will go away. If we click on the mesh instance again, the editor will show up as expected. Alright guys, in the next part we'll create our first nodes on the graph. So be sure to subscribe and check the bell if you don't want to miss the next episode. See you there.